The House Select Committee investigating the January 6th Capitol riot is holding its first hearing Tuesday. Law enforcement officers who defended the building that day will testify. They'll face questions about the failed security tactics they and others used during the response. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi selected a panel of 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans to lead the investigation. Illinois Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger is the latest to join. The Air Force veteran is a vocal critic of former President Trump's baseless claims about the 2020 election, as well as Mr. Trump's conduct surrounding the January 6th attack. For more, I want to bring in CBS News reporter Cassidy McDonald. She's been following the Capitol riot investigation. Hi there, Cassidy. So what do we know about the impact January 6th had on responding police officers?
Right. We've all seen the videos of officers experiencing violence that day, but I want to give you a sense of some of the numbers that we've reported just to remind you of the scale of impact on officers. We've reported that about 150 officers were injured that day, and so far, at least 165 defendants have been charged with either assaulting, resisting, or impeding officers or employees. That includes more than 50 who have been charged with using a deadly or dangerous weapon or causing serious bodily injury to an officer. Now, that attack has continued to impact officers. We reported months after the attack that more than a dozen police officers were still out of work because of injuries that they got on January 6th. Those injuries include psychological trauma. And Elaine, some of the officers who will testify tomorrow have said that they've continued to experience the scars, the emotional scars of the attack, and they're still dealing with them to this day.
Yeah, I mean, what more can you tell us, Cassidy, about the officers testifying tomorrow?
4 officers will testify tomorrow. If you've been following this issue closely, they're likely names that you have heard before because all of them have been vocal about their experiences on the front lines January 6th. All of them have said that they were assaulted while defending the Capitol. One name you may have heard is Michael Fanone. He's an officer who was pulled into the crowd alone and beaten that day. He says he was tortured by those in the mob. Another who we'll hear from tomorrow is D.C. police officer Daniel Hodges. You've likely seen the video of Officer Hodges screaming out in pain as a mob of people crush him inside a doorway. And we'll also hear from 2 people from the Capitol Police Force. Private First Class Harry Dunn has said that he was assaulted and called racial slurs during the Capitol attack. And Capitol Police Sergeant Aquilino Ganell has said in interviews that he was soaked with chemical spray and beaten with a flagpole that day. So as this committee kicks off their investigation, and as a reminder, this committee is led by Democrats, all of these officers are people who can provide really visceral, firsthand accounts of some of the most violent, most egregious attacks that people experienced that day.
Yeah, well, we know a number of officers, Cassidy, have spoken about the political tensions surrounding this committee. What are their concerns?
Certainly, there have been concerns around the formation of this committee, and actually 2 of the officers who will be testifying tomorrow, Michael Fanone and Harry Dunn, they've actually both met with lawmakers in the past. They said that they spoke with House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, and they actually asked him to take this committee seriously. They asked him not to put people who they called obstructionists in the committee. That's something that Nancy Pelosi accused McCarthy of doing last week. And so these 2 officers we've seen have really begun to dip their toes into the political issues that are surrounding this panel. And certainly all of them will be at the center of those political issues as they are under questioning from lawmakers tomorrow.
And Cassidy, I know you touched on this at the top, but what is the latest on the criminal cases related to the assaults of those officers?
Yeah, so in Fanone's case, a handful of people have been charged in connection with his assaults. And so those court filings really provide a detailed account of what he said he experienced that day and some of what he may be able to testify to tomorrow. Prosecutors have said that Fanone was pulled away by a defendant in the crowd. He wrapped him into a bear hug, pulled him out of the police line, and actually said, apparently, according to these court documents, hey, I got one. Prosecutors say that he was then beaten by multiple people in the crowd. One person tased him, they say. One person grabbed his police badge and radio, and another tried to grab his gun. Now, in the case of Officer Hodges, prosecutors have made arrests for people who they say are responsible for the shoving that ended up crushing him inside that doorway. But one of his alleged attackers, this is someone who Hodges has said grabbed his gas mask and used it to beat his head against the door. That person remains unidentified, uncharged, still on the FBI's wanted list.
You know, Cassidy, before we let you go, I wonder, as someone who has gone through a good number of these court documents, I mean, I see you're reporting in your emails at all hours of the day and night because this is such an expansive investigation. I wonder if you expect this committee to resolve any outstanding questions that remain.
Well, I'm curious to hear what the officers themselves felt were shortcomings in terms of the intelligence, the planning, the guidance that they were given. Clearly, they waded into what ended up being really a vicious attack, and I'm curious to hear what they think could be done better in the future. Our own Nicole Killian actually spoke with the new chief of the Capitol Police, who was sworn in on Friday, and he said that he'll be listening to these officers' accounts to hear what they believe about this attack as he continues to try to reform the Capitol Police to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. Certainly, we'll continue to hear detailed accounts of the violence that they experienced that day, the ongoing mental health and physical health of those officers as they've continued to recover from the attack. But I'm very curious to hear what they'll say about how the Capitol Police and other law enforcement agencies can reform.
All right, Cassidy McDonald. Cassidy, thank you so much.
Thank you.